Some love stories begin with a glance across a crowded room. Others start with years of friendship slowly blooming into something more. But Camila Torres never imagined her story would begin with a single night of magic and end with her collapsing on a scorching sidewalk, carrying the child of a man who had vanished like smoke. The afternoon sun blazed mercilessly over the financial district as she stood there, trembling, hungry, and holding onto the last thread of hope that maybe, just maybe, he would remember her face. The glass tower before her stretched toward the sky like a monument to everything she was not. Wealth, power, belonging, through its crystalline walls. She could see the lobby gleaming with polished marble. Enormous chandeliers casting rainbow prisms across surfaces so clean they looked untouched by human hands. Security guards in crisp uniforms moved with military precision. Well-dressed professionals glided through revolving doors with briefcases and confident strides. This was Adrian Castellanos' territory, and she was just a girl from the old neighborhood. Clutching a secret that weighed heavier than mountains, Camila had arrived at 8 that morning. Her heart hammering against her ribs with such force, she thought it might break through. She had practiced the words 1,000 times during the sleepless night before. "Hello, I need to speak with Mr. Castellanos. It's extremely important. Personal matter." But the woman behind the reception desk, Beatriz Romero, with her severe black suit and hair pulled so tight it seemed to stretch her face into a permanent expression of disdain, had looked at Camila like she was dirt tracked in on expensive shoes. "Mr. Castellanos does not see anyone without an appointment," Beatriz had said, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Company policy. No exceptions." Camila had leaned forward, desperation making her brave. "Please, I just need 5 minutes. If you could tell him Camila is here, Camila Torres. From the charity gala 2 months ago, I think he would want to know that I came." The secretary's eyes had traveled slowly from Camila's worn canvas shoes up to her simple cotton dress, the kind you could find at any neighborhood market for 20 euros. A cruel smile had curved her painted lips. "Sweetheart, do you have any idea how many women come through here with stories just like yours? Every week someone shows up claiming they met Mr. Castellanos at some event, that they shared something special, that he absolutely must see them." She had leaned back in her chair, fingers drumming on the desk. "He's a billionaire. You really think you're the first girl to try this?" The humiliation had burned through Camila like acid. "I'm not trying anything. I just need to tell him something important. Then email his office like everyone else. Now please leave before I call security." "But I don't have his email. I only have this address." Beatriz had actually laughed then, a sound without warmth. "Of course you don't. Look, I'll be kind and give you some advice. Men like Adrian Castellanos don't end up with girls like you. Whatever you think happened between you two, whatever fantasy you've built in your head, it's time to wake up. Now get out." Standing outside now, 9 hours later, Camila could still feel the sting of those words. Girls like you. As if her worth could be measured by her bank account or the labels in her clothes. As if the night she had shared with Adrian had been nothing more than a transaction she was too naive to understand, but she knew what she had felt. She remembered every detail of that evening with the kind of clarity that made it feel like yesterday instead of 2 months ago. Sofia, her best friend since childhood, had somehow scored 2 invitations to the annual charity gala at the Hotel Emperador. "Come with me," Sofia had begged. "I can't face all those snobs alone. Besides, when will we ever get another chance to see how the other half lives?" Camila had borrowed a dress from Sofia's cousin, a simple, emerald green gown that made her dark eyes shine. She had felt like an imposter walking into that ballroom with its crystal chandeliers and orchestra playing classical music. Everywhere she looked, women dripped with diamonds and men discussed investments like they were deciding which coffee to order. Then she had seen him. Adrian Castellanos, standing near the bar with a group of executives, looking bored despite the luxury surrounding him. Tall, with dark hair and eyes the color of midnight, wearing a tuxedo like he had been born in one. He had glanced across the room, and their eyes had met. Time had stopped. The music had faded. Nothing existed except the electric current that passed between them in that single look. He had walked toward her with the confidence of someone who who had never been told no in his life. "Dance with me," he had said, not asked. His hand had extended toward her, and she had taken it without thinking, without breathing, without remembering that she was nobody and he was everything. They had danced for hours. He had made her laugh with stories about his disastrous attempts at cooking. She had told him about her work as a graphic designer, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful from nothing. He had listened like her words were the most fascinating thing he had ever heard. When he had suggested they go somewhere quieter, somewhere they could actually talk, she had said yes. The hotel room had been on the top floor, overlooking the entire city. They had stood by the window watching lights twinkle like earthbound stars. "I feel like I've been waiting to meet you my whole life," he had whispered against her hair. And when he had kissed her, gentle at first, and then, with growing hunger, she had believed him completely. They had made love slowly, carefully, as if they had all the time in the world. He had touched her like she was precious, looked at her like she was the only woman who existed. Afterwards, wrapped in expensive sheets with his arms around her, she had thought maybe fairy tales could be real. Maybe love at first sight wasn't just something that happened in movies. She had fallen asleep, feeling safer than she had ever felt in her life. When she had woken up, sunlight streaming through the curtains, he was gone. No note, no phone number scrawled on hotel stationery. Just an empty space where he had been, and the slowly dawning realization that she had been a fool. For 3 weeks, Camila had told herself it didn't matter. It had been one beautiful night, and she would treasure the memory. She had tried calling the hotel, but they refused to give out guest information. She had searched for him online, but found only corporate photos and press releases that made him look like a stranger. She had convinced herself she would forget. Then the nausea had started. The exhaustion that made her fall asleep at her computer. The strange sensitivity to smells. Grandmother Rosa had taken one look at her face and said, "Mia, you need to take a test." The positive result had stared up at her from the bathroom counter like an accusation. Pregnant. She was pregnant with the child of a man she had spent one night with. A man who had disappeared without a trace. A man who probably didn't even remember her name, but he had to know. Whatever else happened, whatever he thought of her, he deserved to know he was going to be a father. So she had found the address of his company headquarters, put on her most presentable dress, and come here prepared to wait as long as it took. Now, as the sun began its descent and shadows stretched long across the pavement, Camila felt her body beginning to betray her. Her vision blurred at the edges. The world tilted slightly, like someone had pushed the horizon off balance. She had not eaten since the piece of toast she had forced down last night. Had not drunk water because she had been afraid to leave her post even for a moment, terrified she would miss him if he came out through the glass doors. She could see Beatriz gathering her purse, preparing to leave for the day. The secretary glanced toward the street, saw Camila still standing there, and shook her head with visible disgust before turning away. The nausea hit her in waves now, stronger than ever before. Camila pressed a hand to her stomach, to the life growing there that she already loved with a fierceness that terrified her. "Hold on, little one," she whispered. "Just a little longer, please." The doors opened. Several people emerged, but none of them were him. A couple walked past her, the woman's perfume so strong it made Camila's stomach heave. She stumbled backward, catching herself against a lamppost. Then she saw him. Through the glass, moving through the lobby with 2 men in dark suits flanking him. Adrian Castellanos, looking exactly as she remembered, maybe more tired, maybe sadder, but unmistakably him. Their eyes met for just a fraction of a second through the glass and window reflection. Recognition flashed across his face, then confusion. Then something she could not read. Camila tried to step forward, to call out his name, but the world suddenly spun violently. Her knees buckled. The sidewalk rushed up to meet her, and the last thing she heard before darkness claimed her was someone shouting for help. Footsteps running toward her in a voice that sounded like his screaming her name. She had found him. After 2 months of searching, of waiting, of hoping against hope, she had found him. And now, as consciousness slipped away like water through her fingers, she only prayed he would still be there when she opened her eyes again. Softness. That was the first thing Camila noticed as consciousness slowly returned. softness beneath her body, softer than anything she had ever felt. The scent of expensive cologne mixed with something clean and masculine filled her nostrils. Her eyelids felt heavy, weighted down by exhaustion that had seeped into her bones during those 9 hours of standing, waiting, hoping. Where was she? The last thing she remembered was the sidewalk rushing toward her face, the sick feeling of her body giving up, the distant sound of panic in someone's voice. Her voice? Had he called her name? Or had she imagined it in those final moments before the darkness swallowed her whole? Slowly, carefully, Camila forced her eyes open. The ceiling above her was pristine white, dotted with recessed lighting that cast a warm glow across the room. She turned her head, taking in her surroundings with growing confusion. This was a bedroom, but not like any bedroom she had ever seen. The walls were a deep charcoal gray, decorated with modern abstract art that probably cost more than her grandmother's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Buildings stretching toward a sky painted in shades of orange and pink as the sun set. The bed she lay in was enormous, covered in black silk sheets that felt like water against her skin. Everything in the room screamed wealth and masculine taste. Minimalist furniture in dark wood, a bookshelf filled with leather-bound volumes, a suit jacket draped over a chair that looked like it had been tailored by someone who, charged by the thread, Camila's heart began to race. She tried to sit up, but her head spun immediately, forcing her back down against the pillows. That was when she noticed her shoes had been removed, placed neatly beside the bed. Someone had covered her with a soft blanket. Someone had brought her here, wherever here was. The door opened, and time stopped. Adrian Castellanos stood in the doorway, a glass of water in his hand, his expression unreadable. He had removed his suit jacket, rolled up the sleeves of his white dress shirt to reveal forearms that she remembered wrapped around her body. His dark hair was disheveled, as if he had been running his hands through it repeatedly. Those midnight eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made breathing difficult. "You're awake," he said, his voice rough. He moved into the room, each step measured and careful, like he was approaching something fragile that might shatter. "Don't try to get up too quickly. You've been unconscious for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Camila's hand instinctively went to her stomach, panic flooding through her. "The baby," she whispered. "Is the baby okay?" She saw the exact moment her words registered. Adrian stopped mid-step, the water glass trembling slightly in his hand. His face, which had been carefully controlled, cracked open to reveal shock, confusion, and something else. Something that looked almost like fear. "What did you say?" His voice came out barely above a whisper. Camila pushed herself up on her elbows, ignoring the way the room tilted. She had come here to tell him the truth, and she was not going to lose her courage now. Not when she had already sacrificed her pride, her dignity, and nearly her consciousness to get this moment. "I'm pregnant," she said, forcing the words out clearly despite the emotion choking her throat. 2 months. I've been trying to reach you, but I didn't have your number. I didn't have anything except the memory of one night in this address. Your secretary wouldn't let me in, so I waited. I waited all day because you needed to know. Because despite everything, despite the way you disappeared without a word, you have a right to know that you're going to be a father." The silence that followed was suffocating. Adrian set the water glass down on the dresser with exaggerated care, as if any sudden movement might cause an explosion. When he turned back to face her, his expression had hardened into something cold and distant. 2 months, he repeated, his voice flat. "You're telling me you're 2 months pregnant with my child and you're just now finding me?" The accusation in his tone felt like a slap. Camila sat up fully now, anger giving her strength. "Just now? I've been looking for you since the morning I woke up alone in that hotel room. Do you have any idea what it's like to wake up next to emptiness? To realize that someone you thought you connected with, someone who whispered beautiful words and held you like you mattered, just vanished?" "I had a reason," Adrian bit out, running a hand through his hair with visible frustration. "I had to leave. Without a note? Without a phone number? Without anything? My mother was dying." The words erupted from him like a dam breaking, sharp and painful. I got a call at 4 in the morning that she had been rushed to the hospital. Massive stroke. The doctors said she had hours, maybe less. I had to go. I thought I would come back, thought I would explain, but by the time I got to the hospital, she was already gone. And then there was the funeral, the estate, the company responsibilities that suddenly became mine alone. When I finally went back to find you, you had checked out. No forwarding information. No last name that I knew. Nothing. Camila felt the anger drain out of her, replaced by a hollow ache. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm so sorry about your mother. I didn't know how could you." His laugh was bitter. "We spent one night together, Camila. One perfect, impossible night where I told you things I've never told anyone, where I felt things I didn't think I was capable of feeling anymore. And then reality crashed in and reminded me that fairy tales don't exist in my world. So you think I'm lying?" The question came out smaller than she intended. "You think I would make this up?" Adrian's jaw clenched. She watched him wage some internal war, emotions flickering across his face too quickly to identify. Finally, he spoke, and his words cut deeper than any knife could. "I think you're not the first woman to show up claiming to be pregnant with my child. I think men with money are targets. I think I need proof before I append my entire life for a stranger who I spent one night with 2 months ago." Each word landed like a physical blow. Camila swung her legs over the side of the bed, ignoring the dizziness, ignoring the weakness in her limbs. Pride was the only thing holding her together now. "It's fine," she said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. "You want proof? Set up a paternity test. Give me the appointment details, and I'll be there. But understand this, Adrian. I didn't come here for your money. I didn't come here expecting anything except honesty. I came because I believe children deserve to know their fathers, even if their fathers turn out to be cowards who hide behind suspicion instead of taking responsibility." She stood, wobbling slightly. Adrian moved forward instinctively, reaching out to steady her, but she jerked away from his touch. "Don't. You've made yourself perfectly clear. Now, where are my shoes?" "Camila, you just collapsed. You need to see a doctor." "I have a doctor. I have a grandmother who loves me. I have a friend who actually believes me when I tell her the truth. I don't need anything from you except that paternity test." A knock at the door interrupted them. An older man with kind eyes and a medical bag entered, looking between them with obvious concern. "I'm Dr. Valdez," he said gently. "Mr. Castellanos called me to examine you, miss. Please, you've had a severe dehydration episode. Let me just check your vitals and make sure you and the baby are stable." The mention of the baby made something crack in Adrian's carefully maintained composure. Camila saw him flinch, saw his hands curl into fists at his sides. "Fine," she agreed, sinking back onto the bed. "Not for Adrian, but for the tiny life depending on her. But then I'm leaving." Dr. Valdez worked efficiently, checking her blood pressure, listening to her heart, asking questions about her symptoms. Camila answered mechanically, aware of Adrian standing rigidly near the window, his back to them, shoulders tense. "Your blood pressure is dangerously low," Dr. Valdez said finally, his tone concerned. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday. Toast. A small piece." The admission made her feel pathetic and water. "I couldn't leave. I was waiting to see him." She gestured toward Adrian without looking at him. "I thought if I left my spot, I would miss him." She heard Adrian make a sound, something between a curse and a groan. Dr. Valdez shook his head. "Miss, you need rest, proper nutrition, and hydration. The pregnancy is putting extra demands on your body. Standing for 9 hours without food or water could have seriously harmed both you and the baby. You're lucky you didn't miscarry from the stress." The word miscarry hung in the air like a ghost. Camila's hand went protectively to her stomach. She had been so focused on finding Adrian, on telling him the truth, that she had not fully considered what she was risking. Guilt washed over her in waves. "I'll be more careful," she promised the doctor. "I'll eat. I'll drink water. I'll rest. Just please tell me the baby is okay." "The heartbeat is strong," Dr. Valdez assured her with a gentle smile. "But you need to take better care of yourself. This little one needs a healthy mother." Adrian finally turned from the window. His face looked carved from stone, but his eyes betrayed him. They were haunted, conflicted, swimming with emotions he clearly did not want to feel. "Stay tonight," he said abruptly. "There's a guest room. Dr. Valdez can monitor you. Make sure you're stable. Tomorrow I'll arrange for the paternity test. And if," he paused, swallowing hard, "when it confirms what you're saying, we'll figure out what comes next. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's common sense. You collapsed on the street because of me, because my secretary turned you away, because I made you wait 9 hours in the heat without food or water. The least I can do is make sure you and—" he hesitated over the words, "and the baby are safe tonight." Camila wanted to refuse. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to walk out with her head held high, to never accept anything from this man who doubted her, who looked at her like she might be trying to trap him. But exhaustion weighed on her like chains, and Dr. Valdez was right. She had been reckless with more than just her own life. One night she agreed. "In separate rooms. I don't want to be anywhere near you." Something flickered in Adrian's eyes. Pain, maybe. Regret. But he nodded. "Julian, my assistant, will bring you something to eat. Is there anyone you need to call? Anyone who's worried about you?" "My grandmother. She'll be frantic." Adrian pulled out his phone, handed it to her. "Call her. Tell her you're safe. Tell her," he paused, "tell her whatever you want." Their fingers brushed as she took the phone, and the electric shock of contact made them both freeze. For just a moment, Camila saw past his walls to the man underneath. The man who had danced with her like she was the only woman in the world. The man who had whispered that he felt like he had been waiting his whole life to meet her, but then he pulled away, and the walls slammed back into place. The guest room was beautiful in an impersonal way, like a luxury hotel suite designed to impress but not to comfort. Camila sat on the edge of the bed, phone pressed to her ear, listening to Grandmother Rosa's worried voice demanding to know where she had been for the past 12 hours. "I'm fine, Abuela," Camila said softly. "I'm sorry I worried you. I'm staying with a friend tonight. I'll explain everything tomorrow, I promise." "A friend? Mia, what kind of friend makes you disappear all day without calling? You sound exhausted. Are you sick? Is it the baby?" Tears pricked at Camila's eyes. Grandmother Rosa had been the only person she had told about the pregnancy, and instead of judgment, she had received only love and support. "The baby is fine. I'm fine. I just need to rest. I'll be home tomorrow. You come home whenever you're ready, mi amor. Just know that I'm here. Always." After hanging up, Camila lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. Through the walls, she could hear muffled voices. Adrian and Dr. Valdez, probably discussing her condition in medical terms that reduced her entire situation to symptoms and statistics. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. The door opened to reveal a young man in his 20s, carrying a tray laden with food. He had a friendly face and warm smile that seemed genuine. "Miss Torres. I'm Julian, Mr. Castellanos' assistant. He asked me to bring you dinner. It's nothing too heavy since you haven't eaten. Just some soup, bread, and fruit. There's also juice and water." The smell of the food made Camila's stomach growl loudly enough that Julian smiled. "I'll take that as approval, May." He gestured to the small table by the window. "Thank you," Camila said, surprised by the kindness. She had expected everyone in Adrian's world to treat her with the same disdain as Beatriz had. As Julian set up the meal, spoke casually. "For what it's worth, Beatriz was fired about an hour ago. Mr. Castellanos reviewed the security footage and saw how she treated you this morning. He was furious. No one deserves to be treated like that, especially not someone who," he paused delicately, "especially not in your condition." Malay did not know how to respond. The idea that Adrian had fired someone because of her made her feel complicated things she did not want to examine. Julian headed toward the door, then turned back. "He's not a bad person, you know. I've worked for him for 3 years, and I've seen him be generous, fair, even kind when he thinks no one is watching. His mother's death changed him, made him harder, more suspicious. But underneath that, the good man is still there." After Julian left, Camila forced herself to eat slowly, each spoonful of soup feeling like a small victory. The food helped. The fog in her head cleared slightly, and strength began returning to her limbs. As she ate, she could not stop thinking about Adrian's face when she had told him about the baby. The shock, yes, but also something else. Something that looked like longing mixed with fear. She finished eating and was considering whether to shower or sleep when another knock came. This time, when she called out permission to enter, Adrian himself stood in the doorway. He had changed into casual clothes, jeans, and a simple black shirt that somehow made him look more approachable and more dangerous at the same time. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice careful. "Please." Camila wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself from more hurt, but she nodded, gesturing to the chair across from the bed. Adrian sat down, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. For a long moment, he just looked at her and she let him, refusing to be the first to speak. "I handled this badly," he finally said. "Everything about this situation, I handled badly. The way I left that morning without explanation, the way I reacted today when you told me about the baby, the fact that my secretary treated you like garbage, and I didn't even know you were there." "You hurt me," Camila said simply. "Twice now. Once when you disappeared, and again today when you looked at me like I was trying to scam you." "I know." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as something he did when he was struggling with emotions he did not want to show. "After my mother died, I found out some things. I discovered that several women had come forward over the years claiming my father had gotten them pregnant, trying to get money from the estate. Most of them were lying, and turned out to be true. I have a half-sister I never knew about because some woman saw an opportunity and took it. The experience made me cynical, made me assume the worst. I'm not your father's mistakes," Camila said quietly. "And I'm not whatever those other women were. I'm just someone who spent one night with you and ended up pregnant. I didn't plan this. I didn't want to trap you. I just wanted you to know the truth, because I believe that's what decent people do. They tell the truth even when it's hard." Adrian's eyes met hers, and she saw genuine remorse there. "That night we spent together, it wasn't just physical for me. I know we barely knew each other, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Maybe ever. You made me laugh. You listened. When I talked about stupid things like my failed cooking attempts and childhood dreams, you didn't care about my money or my company. You just saw me. Adrian. Not Adrian Castellanos, CEO and billionaire. Just me. Then why did you leave without a word? Because when I got that call about my mother, reality came crashing back. I was in this perfect bubble with you, and suddenly I was being yanked back into my real life, where people die and responsibilities crush you and nothing is ever simple or pure. I thought I would come back, explain, get your number. But by the time I could think straight again, you were gone. And I convinced myself maybe it was better that way. That what we had was just a fantasy that couldn't survive in real life." Mila felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "It wasn't a fantasy for me. It was the most real thing I'd ever felt." Adrian stood abruptly, crossing to the window. His reflection in the glass looked tortured. "I hired 3 different private investigators to find you. Did you know that? I gave them everything I could remember. Your first name, the color of your dress, the fact that you were a graphic designer. But you left no digital footprint at that hotel. It's paid cash for everything with your friend. It was like you were a ghost." "Sophia didn't want to use credit cards. She just had identity theft issues," Camila explained. "We thought we were being smart. Instead, you disappeared so completely, I started to think I had imagined you." He turned back to face her. "And then today, when I saw you through the glass, I thought I was hallucinating. That grief and stress had finally made me crazy. Then you collapsed, and when I reached you, when I saw your face up close, I knew you were real. And I was terrified. Terrified of what? That you would hate me for leaving? That you would never give me a chance to explain? That I had destroyed something precious before it even had a chance to begin?" He took a step closer. "And then you told me you were pregnant, and I was even more terrified. Because I saw my father in that moment, all his mistakes, all his failures, all the ways he hurt people. And I was so scared of becoming him that I lashed out at you instead of just listening." Camila wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I don't want to raise a child alone, Adrian, but I will if I have to. My grandmother raised me by herself after my mother abandoned us. She showed me that you don't need two parents to give a child love. You just need one parent who refuses to give up. You're not going to be alone. Words came out fierce, almost angry. I want to be involved. I want to know my child. He hesitated. I want to try to fix what I broke between us. If that's even possible, you want me to just forgive you? Just like that? I want you to give me a chance to earn forgiveness. Let me prove that I'm not the man who demands paternity tests and looks at you with suspicion. Let me show you the man who danced with you that night. The man who told you he felt like he'd been waiting his whole life to meet you. Because that was the truth, Camila. That was the most honest I've been with anyone in years. Camila's heart ached with the desire to believe him, but trust was not something you could rebuild in a single conversation. I'm tired, Adrian, exhausted in ways that have nothing to do with today. I need time to think. I need to figure out what's best for this baby, because that's all that matters now. It's not what I feel or what you feel, but what's best for this innocent life we created. He nodded slowly. I understand. Take all the time you need. But please, his voice cracked slightly, please don't disappear again. Even if you decide you want nothing to do with me romantically, even if you hate me forever, let me be part of this child's life. That's all I'm asking. I would never keep a child from their father, Camila said softly. As long as that father actually wants to be present and isn't just going through the motions out of obligation. I want this. The certainty in his voice surprised her. I didn't know I wanted it until you told me, but now that I know, it's real. I want this more than I've wanted anything in a long time. I want to see you grow around with my child. I want to be at doctor's appointments. I want to feel the baby kick. I want to be there when they're born. I want to be a father, a real one, not like mine was. And Camila's chest softened at his words. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the vulnerability he was allowing her to see. This was not the cold businessman who had demanded proof. This was the man she had met at the gala, the one who had been hiding behind walls of responsibility and grief. The paternity test, she said quietly. We should still do it. Not because I doubt what I'm telling you, but because you need that certainty. And maybe because I need you to have no doubts, no lingering suspicions that might poison everything later. Are you sure? I'm sure. Set it up. We'll do the test, get the results, and then we can figure out what comes next. But Adrian, she fixed him with a steady gaze. If we're going to do this, if we're going to try to co-parent or whatever this becomes, I need honesty from you. No more running away when things get hard. No more disappearing. If you're in, you're all in. I won't accept anything less. All in, he agreed immediately. I promise you, Camila. No more running. They sat in silence for a moment, the air between them charged with possibility and pain in equal measure. Finally, Adrian stood to leave. At the door, he paused. That night we met, when we danced, you asked me what I dreamed about when I was young. For responsibility and expectations crushed all the joy out of life. Do you remember what I said? Camila nodded. You said you dreamed of finding someone who saw you as a person, not a bank account. Someone who made you feel like life was an adventure instead of a burden. You were that person, he said softly. You still are. I just hope I haven't destroyed any chance we might have had to explore what that could mean. After he left, Camila lay in the darkness, one hand on her stomach, tears streaming down her face. She cried for the fairy tale that had been shattered. She cried for the loneliness of the past 2 months. She cried for the fear and uncertainty of the future. But underneath all that pain, there was something else, something small and fragile, but stubbornly refusing to die. Hope? Maybe, just maybe, broken things could be mended. Maybe second chances existed. Maybe love that started in chaos could still grow into something beautiful and real and lasting. She would not know unless she was brave enough to try.